Hey Mark, what's going on? Andy here, all the way from Malaysia. Just got your video and stuff. I'm just gonna draw a couple things out for us. You know, main things that we always focus on is having a good address setup, making sure our lower body is working more underneath us and not so much towards the ball. And it's basically making sure that club's not getting so far behind us. When we start getting softer and all that's one thing we gotta make sure we start noticing that is that our shoulder tilts have to start getting a little bit better at from pretty much from start position all the way to the top of our backswing because what starts happening, I think you start getting that club maybe when you're getting softer, you start working more around you. So let's just kind of take a look at a couple things. I have a swing video from we were working I think like 2 years ago, just before you went to, or just maybe after you went to Mississippi, and you're striking it really, really well, and you're controlling your golf ball pretty solid, and you're pretty pumped because you're hitting it pretty well. So overall, I know the cameraing on the right's a little different, but also we can see a couple of glaring differences. One, I think the hands are just sitting a little bit too low, and just point the butt of the club just a touch too low, right? Which is why if you've been kind of struggling getting the ball starting straight and over curving and having a tough time getting the ball to start right, this is why. Handle is just a touch too high, or a touch too low, excuse me. So when the handle points more lower, the club face usually points more left as well. So raise the handle just a touch up, and that'll be a lot easier for you to kind of get the idea of getting the ball maybe starting right a little bit easier to help control that draw. Second, we start looking at here, we start looking at your overall knee flex, right? And then you have your weight back on your heels just a touch, and we're just having maybe a touch too much knee flex there, so definitely a little straighter with the legs, and get those hips more over kind of feel like it'd be kind of getting your hips more in the middle part of your feet, but it's just not going to be so far back, right? Because we start looking at a couple things here, right? Drawing a straight line down from your butt. One, do the other. All right, you're going to see a couple of differences here in terms of what we're seeing. So I'm just going to take you to the top of your backswing here. So keeping it pretty standard. Draw that line again since I can't move just a touch. Okay, so there's our new line there. So we kind of go to the top of the backswing here. I want you noticing that your right hip actually stays right on that line, okay? And one of them right over here is that your right hip and your butt is actually to go a little bit away from that line, right? So that's what starts happening for you, is that when you start getting out of balance a little bit at setup, we know your tendency is to always have your hips kind of rock towards the target. So what starts happening when you get too much knee flex and that butt too far behind you, and when that pressure's in your heel like that, as you make your backswing, you're going to try making it more of a balanced type backswing. You're going to go back to the balls of your feet, which will bring your butt towards the golf ball and not necessarily allow you to turn as much too. So that's one thing I think it's going to help really focus on your setup. Let's get the handle just a touch higher and straighter legs. That will kind of cure that problem. Okay? Because when I bring you back and through, watch the one on the left here. Your butt staying nice and behind you. Boom, going through impact, butt still over there. One on the right here, it's going to still work further away from that line, which is going to start causing some issues, which we'll talk about in a second. Okay, so that's one thing I want you focusing on. All right, the second thing is like we're starting to get too deep again. Okay, so take you to the top of your backswing. Let's just say halfway back, right around here. That left arm is kind of parallel to the ground. Again, the cameraing on the right is just a little higher, so it's going to look a little bit more shallow, but you're still going to get the idea. All right, so let's just look at this top of our swing here. Okay, so some pretty glaring differences there. All right, if you just draw the butt of the club right there. Again, it's in front of you. Here, start seeing a little difference in terms of that stuff. Obviously, now that one's on the more on the heel, and the one on the right is on the heel, excuse me, and the one on the left is obviously more in the middle part of our feet. So that's nothing too bad right there. We can play with golf on the right and left. Let's just kind of see where it goes from there. Okay. So on the left here, we're exaggerating, kind of getting the left shoulder more down, and really, really feeling to you that that right arm was a lot straighter at that point. Right? Because sometimes with you, is when that right arm overbends and gets stuck, it wants to kind of extend early, right? Which is nothing wrong with that, but sometimes you kind of feel like you're losing control of the golf club, and you don't necessarily like that feeling. So again, this is here us feeling on the left here that you're kind of having a little straighter right arm, Imagine you kind of had that Phil Mickelson thing in there, right? You're feeling that point there, and you're really keeping that club more in front of you and getting that left shoulder more down. All right, so this is easier to do because you weren't doing anything too much with your lower body. You could really just kind of exaggerating what the feel was with the upper body because you're in such good balance at setup. All right, so if I take you to the top over here on the right now, this is where you're going to start seeing some big glaring differences again. Shoulders look a little flat there on the right. And if I draw a line straight down from the butt of the club there, okay, you can definitely start seeing the difference in there. All right, so the butt of the club on the left, just maybe over your heels, maybe just past it just a touch, where the one on the right, way behind your heels, and the right arm's even further behind you and at a lower position. All right, so that's one thing I want you to notice there. I want you to really work on your setup tilts and then on your backswing tilts, keeping that club more in front of you, and really work on that right arm not being bent so far behind you. And kind of keep it just a touch more straighter with the club more in front so it can actually load a little bit on the backswing. Okay, so that's one thing there I want us to focus on. All right, because of that point, as you make your transition, all right, you're going to see that right arm. We want to make sure it loads a little bit more, but the right arm's not going to get behind you too much. All right, so this is a pretty good spot for you. All right, the left arm is in and across the chest just the right amount. You're turning your upper body. We're over here on the right. You'll start seeing some differences at this point. Okay, so when that left arm is parallel to the ground again, look at how deep that club is. Right there. All right, so this is where, drawing plane lines and stuff like that, you can probably be coming down let's say the right elbow plane pretty good here, but the arms are still way too far in. It'd be kind of nice to see that the hand's still working on the elbow plane, but not having that left arm so in. So this is extremely draw biased on the left here, or on the right, excuse me. And obviously, I think for us with your pivot, sometimes, it starts leading to kind of big curves, and usually struggle hitting it high at this point because it creates angle attack issues. Okay, so you start seeing here on the left. Let me get rid of these lines now. Your left arm's not as in. The club's at a little bit more of a softer pitch. It's not as shallow, and the club's just more in front of you, basically. All right, so as we start coming down, the club's now going to get down your right forearm, which is what we want to see. All right, let's see what this one does on the right. As you start seeing there, this one's going to start dropping below the right forearm. So where we start getting to this point here, now the club's just really far behind and now extremely underplane, right? Where we start looking here on the left, where you're hitting some soft little draws. Okay, and the club there on the right is extremely to the inside and shallow. Where the one on the left, you're maintaining a little bit more pitch, a little bit more of an angle with that club, right? Ideally, I'd like to kind of see that one, maybe the club edge just a touch higher, but again, still pretty good there, right? This is going to help you hit down just a touch more on it. And the one on the right here, we're already kind of uncocked and shallow, which is going to start leading to club face rotation issues. And then obviously, you can see on the right here, you weren't really taking too big of divots, right? They're pretty shallow. Obviously, the one on your left here, we're taking just a touch more turf, which to you gives you more spin usually, right? And obviously, from looking at your golf swing, kind of helps you control the golf ball just a little bit better, more consistently distance-wise. All right, so we come to impact now. This is where I start seeing the kind of change, right? So that club head's still kind of working down, not a sharp amount, but still working down through that turf, and we're not going to chunk it necessarily. We're here on the right because of how shallow we're coming, right? You see a little bit of blur of that club head there. It's kind of like right there. You just draw a line to that point, right? Just how much from the inside that thing is coming. Again, obviously it's just the blur and the camera angle's a little off, but we're still seeing it just a little bit now. All right, so we gotta get that club more in front of you, and you gotta feel like that right arm is kind of straighter on the way back, and then kind of feel like it's bending and then getting in front of you on the way down. Should help kind of get the club shallow, but be in front, and making sure we're still kind of getting some good pivoting, some good shoulder rotation in doing that. All right, because one thing we start seeing here is that you're actually doing pretty well. Is I actually like the way these legs are looking through impact there. We're getting our hips open there. We're getting our chest going pretty well. The club's exiting on a pretty decent plane. All right, so that all looks pretty fine and dandy, right? But because we're so kind of a little bit out of sync a little bit on the backswing and downswing, it's kind of causing some issues, probably not hitting it as high as you want. All right, so again, these are still soft little draws here on the left, and we're hitting it pretty solid. So maybe just give you a couple players that kind of give you an idea of maybe what they feel like. Let's use Gary Woodland as an example, since he kind of does these exaggerated pieces, and you don't want to start swinging too far upright, but it gives us a feel for maybe what we're trying to, our visual for what we're trying to want to feel like. Okay, so notice his right arm there. It has a little bit of straightness to it. It's not bending. Then watch how it loads in the downswing. Okay, so it increases flex and gets in front. Okay, so it increases flex and gets in front. And when he starts coming from here, his left arm's not coming off his chest. Right arm's getting in front. Starts going through. Shoulders are still turning. Everything's still getting that way. And boom, and impact, he still has a tremendous amount of actual, a little bit of right arm bend, which is a good thing. That's going to raise the handle up just a touch, which will help the ball start a touch to the right. And usually this also helps with loft, right? You start hitting high balls. Again, the lower the club starts going, the more the club face usually points left, and usually start bringing loft off. The higher the handle is sometimes coming through impact, the more we can actually the ball start right and come in a little bit higher. Okay? And that's what's going to happen in most players. So, if we draw a line from Gary Woodland in that setup, just say it was right there, shaft plane. As we come back down to impact, even with it being a little moving because the camera's moving, all right, you're still definitely going to see that the handle's going to come in a little higher. Okay, bring up another person. Okay, bring up Charles Howell here. Get another good feel for you. Right arm there, pretty much in front and in control. And watch how it comes down and loads in front. Okay, good feeling for you. Probably what it's going to feel like to you is probably going to feel like this. It's probably going to feel like Jason Duffner on the backswing. Where the right arm's going to be just a touch closer and just more in front. That'd probably be like the exaggerated feel. Right, so even guys that swing like a little bit more around themselves, like Hunter here, say kind of typically hits big draws. He's still going to maintain that depth, but pretty much he's making the same kind of backswing that you were making, and the one that I had shot from before he went to Mississippi. Right, so you got the butt of the club. He's deep enough, right? He's not known for being an upright player, but he's deep, right? Kind of very similar to kind of what you're doing in that one golf swing. Okay. But you start noticing as he starts coming down, that right arm's not going to get more behind. It's actually to get in front. And at this point here, you guys definitely look different when that left arm is in. But you don't have his rotation, and you don't have necessarily what he does with his upper body and lower body too much. Now, obviously, we don't have that kind of exit and that kind of wrist. Right? So, but even for him, as he's coming down, that left arm's coming off that chest and is not too shallow. Okay. Give you one more, maybe some feel here. See if anyone else in here. Obviously, the person that does it the most, in terms of maybe what you're going to try and feel with your arm, would be Sergio. Right arm relatively straight, club more in front, comes down, loads, gets the club in front. Right arm goes from straight to bent, in front, goes more around, and goes up that way. Okay, so 3 things. Let's work on that setup again, making sure you're working on that, what you're doing with your pressure in terms of your balls or your feet, not getting the hips so far back, and then really making sure that those hips aren't kind of going towards the golf ball on the backswing, and then obviously on the downswing. And let's really start getting that club just a touch more in front and making sure that right arm isn't overbending on the backswing. All right, Mark, let me know if that helped out, and let me know. Send me another swing.